Greetings, everybody. My name is John Campea from Movie Reviews to Go, and this is my quick review of the new film, Anonymous. What if William Shakespeare never actually wrote all of the works that he's accredited with? What if William Shakespeare, as the poster asks, was a fraud? That's the basic premise of Anonymous, a look at the world in which William Shakespeare didn't actually write his works, which is a commonly held theory actually, and instead all of his stuff was written by the Earl of Oxford, who couldn't publicly let it be known that he was a playwright, and then so let William Shakespeare have the credit for his work. It's an interesting premise. On the good side of Anonymous, first you've got to start with the performance of Rhys Ifans. He gives the performance of his career. Now, I'm not going to go so far as to say that this is an Oscar nominee worthy performance, but it's absolutely solid. The film completely hinges on the performance that he gives as the true playwright behind Shakespeare, the Earl of Oxford, and I thought he was absolutely fantastic in the role. One of the other really good things about this film is I love films that kind of want to look at history a little bit differently and explore other possibilities and present certain facts into evidence in the debate. Now, this whole debate between did Shakespeare write Shakespeare or did the Earl of Oxford write Shakespeare, this is a real life debate that goes on in the real world. And the film does a pretty interesting job of presenting certain facts that make you actually wonder and question if it could be true. Did the Earl of Oxford actually write all of Shakespeare's works? The director, Roland Emmerich, actually said the same thing as he was making the film. He was starting to become convinced that maybe the Earl of Oxford actually did write all this stuff. And the film does a really interesting job of presenting all these different facts and, bits of evidence that would lead you to that conclusion. However, on the downside, one of the things I really hate in films is when they over-exaggerate certain things to make a point. So, the premise of Anonymous was that William Shakespeare wasn't as brilliant as we say he is, but then the film goes super far in not just presenting William Shakespeare, the character, as not quite astute enough, intelligent enough, articulate enough to write the works of William Shakespeare, but they present Shakespeare in this film as a complete idiot, a complete moron, a vile, awful, disgusting human being with no intelligence and no redeeming qualities whatsoever. They just went so far to the point that it becomes insulting to me as an audience member to believe that, look, if William Shakespeare was that stupid, was that much of a moron, was that much of a buffoon, nobody in his time period would have believed he actually wrote this stuff. Nobody would have bought it. And so I thought they went way too far with the caricature of William Shakespeare and how much of an idiot he was. So it just made it really hard for me to swallow the film. When your basic premise is everybody believes Shakespeare wrote this stuff, and yet you present this character in a way that nobody in their right mind would actually believe it, makes it really hard to swallow as a film. Also, I'm somebody who really appreciates non-linear storytelling, that not everything has to be told in a direct timeline. And Roland Emmerich takes the very ambitious approach of wanting to jump around not only 5 or 6 different side stories going on, but 3 or 4 different time periods. So he's jumping all over the place, and unfortunately, instead of making the story seem interesting with that technique, it made the narrative feel jarring. It made it feel random. It made it feel out of place. Basically, it felt like as you're watching Anonymous that the movie was just jumping all over the place. The narrative was jumping from here to there without rhyme or reason. There was no sense of flow. The movie feels jarred. It feels random. It feels out of place. It just feels like it was trying to run in too many different directions all the time. You have 5 different love stories going on. You have political intrigue. You have, the stuff about William Shakespeare himself. You have William Shakespeare's story. You have the Earl of Oxford story. It's just way too much going on that it didn't really feel cohesive as one main story. Overall, Anonymous is an interesting film with an interesting premise, a very strong performance by Rhys Ifans that is sort of makes it worth watching, but overall the storytelling feels like too much of a mess. It's not a coherent story, and a lot of the audience members I was there with didn't really know what was going on, and I audibly heard people in the Shakespearean Society say, this is kind of boring, and really that's how it come across. Anyway, overall, I'm going to give Anonymous a 4.5 out of 10. For Movie Reviews to Go, I'm John Campea.